I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight. Moving into comments from the audience or council. No comments. Council?
Comment from the council. I again want to extend an invitation to the community roundtable that will be held for Precinct 3 on Tuesday, May 27th at 5:30 p.m. Location will be at the Crockett ISD Administration Auditorium on 1400 West Austin Street, and it will be in the rear part. So please come out and express your concerns or assist us with helping you fix issues that are becoming to this city. So that's my invitation.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item number 1, special sessions, May 9th, 2025.
Okay, before the approval of the minutes, you got a question? Approval of the minutes. On the last minutes, I believe I had a conversation with Mr. Angerstein and had addressed some concerns about the canvassing. Not the process. I just had some concerns of an issue that had came about, and I brought it to the attention of Mr. Einstein, also Ms. Cynthia Long. So now I'm bringing the attention to the council, so you'll be aware. But I did ask Ms. Cynthia Long to submit a response to my concern, and I spoke with her, and she stated that she sent the response to Ms. Steph, and so I was assuming that it would have been documented or documented in with the canvassing, because she did state that she would submit the response. So with that being said, will that response be submitted, or I'm asking?
Can you what the response was? What
the concern was? Mm-hmm. Okay. The concern was we had an issue with one of the machines, with the
ballot.
Yeah, with the ballot, with one of the machines. It was reported to me that one of the voters had went in to vote. And when they went in to vote, they did not get, and they resided inside the city limits, and they did not get the mayoral candidate on their ballot. Also, instead of getting that, they received the schools districts, and they were not supposed to be voting for anyone in the school district. So that was a concern that was brought to me. So I wanted to make sure that it was noted. I did talk with Ms. Cynthia Long, and I do understand that they do a good job at their department. And that I wanted it documented, because if this happens again, we will be able to, in the future, reflect back and see if this was, accidental, and how we can respond to this incident, how we can make sure that all the votes are counted and they're counted accurately, and this issue won't happen again. So how we go about getting that response placed in the minute.
So in our speaking to Ms. Long, it was documented in her records. So one person went in, voted, and then mentioned after the ballot was turned in.
Correct.
And so we are aware that there was one ballot, one number, or one vote that was not recorded with the mayoral proposition or candidates on the ballot. And they, after going in and looking at it, there was 2 others that turned it in. It was all on the same. It was surrounding a ballot issue. So when those persons were registered at the front sign in, they were given the wrong ballot. And so they caught the problem with the other 2. They pulled up the system and found that no other ballots had been given out like those. And so it only applied to those 3, 2 of which were caught, and they correctly gave them the correct ballot before they actually went and voted. And then there was one number or one ballot that was improperly provided, and then when they submitted it, there's no way to back that. So one vote that was noted in her certification. And so my understanding is in the election records that's documented, and it was corrected before anybody else voted, and there was no other issues. As far as the canvas or anything like that, I don't know how that would affect. I'm not aware of it affecting this. If a certification was provided to us and her records show that there was one vote off, I guess it would have been an issue if we were closer to.
If it was close, they could have.
And I did review it, and it was actually one number off. The city was off one, and the school district was off one. So the person that was allowed to vote for a school district was not allowed to vote for mayoral candidates. So it evened it out, but so that means it canceled that vote, basically. If you would think about it, I guess. I don't know how we would address that. But I just want to make it known because of the fact that it does need to be documented because for future references. So if an incident like this happens again, we can go back and review and see if it's what's causing the issue, because we want to make sure that we're accurate on our counts. Voting is very, very important, and it's a very touchy issue. So.
Okay.
As far as the minutes, I think this works with just as long as she has it documented.
Can I get a motion on one special?
So we
topic?
needed, okay, so, so will her response be included in this meeting?
It's a public document. I mean, it's a public record. We have it recorded. Her response to us in certification that there is one with her notes about that one ballot.
Will it be noted in this?
It wasn't part of that meeting here. It
Okay.
was just the canvas.
Just note it.
Okay,
Note it.
yeah, okay, I understand
We had
that.
as a public record, yes, ma'am.
Okay, because I know that when I talked to Cindy, she stated that she has a record retention, a period. And once she disposed of those records, it's no longer there. So I want to make sure that it's documented here. So for future references or historical references, someone will be able to look back and see.
I don't know how to document it other than if we put it on the agenda, speak on it, address it, and record it in the minutes. And if you want, we can do that.
I would request that be done because I would rather be transparent and be noted than not to be there to where if someone needs to go back and refer to it, so it'll be there. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So I make a motion to approve the minutes for the special session. That was May 9th, 2025.
I second that motion.
All in favor? Okay. Item number 2, Police Department Manpower Criminal Incident Report for April 2025. I think our police chief is out for a conference training, so I think John's going to.
And we have his report in y'all's package that was provided to you.
He let everybody know that he'll be gone this whole week, but he would be by his phone if we needed. Is there any questions on it, or everybody good? Can I get a motion?
There's no motion.
Oh, no motion. Okay.
So we can go.
All right. Okay, item number 3, Fire Department Monthly Activity and Status Report, April 2025. Hello, Jason.
For the month of April, we had a total of 51 calls. Broken those in, 35 of those in the city retired, and 16 of the calls within our county areas. And finally, 3 structure fires, like I said, a total of 51 for the total breakdown.
Okay. Any questions for our fire chief? Everybody good? Good job, bud. Okay, item number 4. This is lengthy, so I'm going to do something a little different. Public hearing on a request from Kelvin Investments and Inc. and everything described below. I'm going to open a public hearing on everything described below, and John will give a overview on it. So open the public hearing now.
Mayor, Council, Public, we had a P&Z meeting today where this was also brought to them. I have a copy of the planning and zoning and their action. They recommended approval of the requested zone change in a 4-0 vote. I have a couple documents that I'll show you. So this is the area that's going to be included in the zone change. As you can see here, there's 4 parcels. Each of these are separate parcels. This company has come in and purchased all 4 of them, and they're wanting all of them with like zoning classification. If you look right here, as you can see, since 2006 when our zoning map was adopted, some of those parcels have changed in shape and boundaries. So I'll show you here side by side with this one why this is being required. So all of this property here that is currently manufacturing, they're good on. There's a piece of property across here that they purchased that is R3 that is left over from the R3 George Briggs, end of Rose, the new project, a housing authority project here. So all of this was zoned R3 at that time. This red area is all zoned as C2, planned commercial, which is offices and professional buildings and small retail, but truck stops are not allowed. These investors are wanting to put basically right in the center of this red and some of this purple, which delineates manufacturing, they're wanting to put a big truck stop. And so since it overlaps, since their current parcels overlap, as it's recorded, we want it recorded all correctly and not with overlapping zones. So this can be properly updated. We've also addressed an issue with our county clerk's office and the appraisal district, to where in the future, as parcels are sold or subdivided or the boundaries are changed, that it would require coming through our planning and zoning to be able to be properly recorded so we can update our files as well. And so, so that's kind of where we're at right now we have 3 different zones. All of this is properly developed for industrial or manufacturing. However, we have a mixture of residential, R3, C2, and manufacturing. And so that's the driving need for them to request the zone change, so it's all the same, to allow them for, building the truck stop.
Okay.
This is a time for questions. This is also a time if any of the neighboring property owners can speak for or against the zone change. During the P&Z public hearing, there was no one that came to speak for or against the zone change. Comments from council, you can ask questions during the public hearing, but if we're going to do certain things, we're going to have the actual agenda item to discuss, and so I can address questions if you want here or there.
Okay, my question, I do have a question. I think we've already kind of been through this. So when you have committees, things like this that come before the committee, when are we notified that you have items like this that comes before the committee? In other words, like the P&Z committee, they got the zoning, and they went through, they voted on the zoning. So when does that come to council? Does it come after the fact, or?
Well, planning and zoning has to review it. They can make changes, amendments, require special conditions. So the items that I bring to council are not prepared until planning and zoning has gone through the process of their review, speaking with the owners, seeing that if it meets the requirements or the intent of our zoning ordinances. So things change fairly frequently, and then we finalize that and bring that to council for their final approval based on planning and zoning's recommendations.
Okay, so my question is like the initial. So we don't know anything about the businesses that are coming in to the city until after they went to the committee?
In a lot of ways, yes, ma'am. In a lot of ways, competitively, we were not allowed to pass on information from prospective businesses that are...
To council?
Yes, ma'am. In a public meeting, yes, ma'am, for sure.
No. I understand a public meeting.
Yeah, and so there's not really a process unless it fits the executive exemptions for closed session.
So, I mean, that's what I'm saying. So this would fit an executive.
No, this is a public hearing. This is a public.
No,
comment.
not this one right here.
That's
I mean,
why we have.
the initial. I'm talking about at the very beginning. So, I mean, if we're to make these decisions, I mean, should we not know what businesses are coming in to the city, where they're planning to be? I mean, it's...
To some degree.
It's like an economic development, right? I mean, it's...
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Not at all.
Okay.
So this companies, they're not asking for monies. They're not asking for anything that would require negotiations like executive session, closed session negotiations. This is a for-profit company wanting to come in and invest into our community. Currently, our zoning is outdated. Our zoning map that's specific to this area does not fit this investor's proposal.
Okay.
And so this information, all of this, after going through P&Z and preparing it, like the soonest I got it was last week around Thursday. So that's when I sent it out to you guys.
What I'm saying is...
So this is not
You
public.
knew...
Okay, when I sent it to you.
No. You knew that they were preparing it, correct? That's what I'm asking. I'm just asking the process, I guess.
So that's
Because
the process. So the process, if there's for instance, this property that you're looking at, it's sold and changed hands several times from prospective investors.
Okay.
So if I would have made this into a public ordeal, you opening it into more investors seeing that's not the intent of what we're doing. So
That's not my intent. My question.
Okay.
My question is, when do we? Because they kind
Tonight. We know tonight.
Thursday when I posted it.
Tonight.
Oh, so
We'll
we
do it
don't.
tonight.
So we don't know about.
That's why
any,
we have planning and zoning.
But the investor has came and spoken with you.
No, ma'am.
Not at all.
I saw him today for the first time. for the first time I saw him today.
I
I think
saw
that
him.
was him. It wasn't.
I
So
saw him a year
this
and a
is
half
not
ago.
this is not a process that it's not a public process. This is private properties where somebody wants to come in and make an investment. So they don't delve a lot of their information up until Thursday. Here's one piece of information that I was going to share tonight. The only thing that we got, where did I put it? So, as of last Thursday, once we got their name, and they actually, up until then, it just said truck stop. Actually, it didn't say truck stop; it said T stop, and we just guessed that it would probably be a truck stop. So that's all the limited information that we get. And so once we found out the actual name of it, they told us the other sites that they have. So some of the other truck stops that they've developed. I think this is our 5th one. And so all of this information I got on Thursday when I put this agenda together and was sending it out to council. So that's the process that I currently have. I have no other process.
So the council knows
Tonight.
after the fact.
The same time I do, and we all do.
It's just the same thing with Take 5 out there.
I didn't know anything about
I didn't either.
Nobody does.
Who would want to know? what-
We're not in a situation to have city backdoor conversations or city leaders dictating who comes and who doesn't come. We are open. We're an open market, and so if somebody purchases a piece of property and says, "Hey, I want to put a truck stop here," then as I get that information, I bring it to y'all, and y'all decide, do we want to approve this? Essentially, by not approving this, what could happen is they can move over. They can still put this truck stop here, but it best works for their plan to put it in this location where partial zoning requirements need to be provided for. It needs to be amended partially.
Yeah, my main concern is that seems like a lot of information that we're getting, that I'm getting, I don't know about everybody else, I can just speak for me, is I'm getting it on the back end. I'm not getting on the front end.
When we're all getting it.
Yeah, so,
I got this information as we put the agenda together. And as soon as I had when we posted the agenda, that's when I met with you in person. We went over this in detail. That's all the information I have. I have no other information.
and I questioned you at that time, so.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
And I gave the answer then too. I don't know.
myself,
Okay. We got anybody to speak for or against? Go ahead.
And so it needs to be property owners that are on that list.
Okay.
Sorry.
I was just gonna ask.
We can ask. It is a public hearing, so you can ask questions. But as far as speaking for or against, would probably be So
How y'all doing, everybody? I was just asking, like you said, if we were to move it over, I don't want the housing authority residents to get cut out of property, for a major change. So if the planning and zoning committee can do the zoning without cutting, the residential area, and
okay, so let me pull it up to see what you're talking about here.
the yellow part is residential.
And so, yes, ma'am, this is what's developed as the housing authority. So they're not going to change any of that.
And so the yellow part, like behind it, that's the houses that's coming close to 4th Street, correct?
This is all being used as a Crockett ready mix, probably up to about right here. And so some of this bottom corner of the yellow is their property, and it's all open field right now.
Okay.
But all of this, and by our zoning ordinance, the boundaries in between the residential and industrial or manufacturing requires screening fencing. So that it needs to be, to some degree, like sound barrier proofing, brick, wood, a nice, not a chain link fence even, but a nice visual and sound barrier.
Right, because there was a business put on the back side of our property, and they didn't send the notices out, so that's why I'm trying to figure out, to make sure that the residents know about the business and know the boundaries, and that everything is zoned correctly.
Right. With that property, it was already zoned as commercial, so it didn't require this process. But I definitely see to not be surprised by what's moving into. But it was already zoned commercial there. But it does require visual screening and sound screening.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Forgive me, I did not look at this that well. The only thing from that approach here, if you're looking at this as the expansion of the housing in this particular area, and you've got now they're going to be in this particular here, I asked that, have we put in regarding for the people who are going to live there, the children and so forth, with this type of noise that's coming in, it seemed like it would prosper not only the city, but also this development about moving it closer to this particular area versus where you're going to have housing. Even though they do put up fencing and so forth and so on, you've got 50-foot lights that are going to be streaming in the back of people's yards. And so
They're not allowed to point towards other properties. So,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
And you're not, and you know that, but, you know, I'm just
Understand.
bringing about just some observations that I've seen with this, not fully recognizing this. You also have the sand pit on one side. You're looking at already the community property or the housing property, kind of already kind of a pickle with this situation. Now we have something else with noise all.
Do you live in this area? Or do you live in this area?
But
Okay.
I can look at the map and say,
Okay.
I have a question. Will
Go
this
ahead.
bring value to the surrounding properties?
Of course.
an incredible amount of value.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
This is a multi-million-dollar truck stop providing jobs and lots of fuel and sales tax revenue. Just to comment, because this is not, we're not trying to shut anything down, but this, across this line here, this is where the truck stop will be, right here in the center of this. All of this area is already developed for a storm drainage. There's a big storm drainage ditch, causing everything to be offset and pushed back from a lot of the housing area that y'all are talking, that's been brought up. So that'll be some distance and visual from it. This is the site plan that they sent to us here. So it's gonna, as you see this creek area right here, that goes on back. And so this is gonna be up closer to the road. It's not abutting the backside of the housing authority. But this is all the information I have at this time.
Okay, do we have anybody else speak for or against?
Right beside Moore's transmission.
Yeah.
Right beside Moore's transmission.
Kind of in between the old mobile home place and Moore's transmission.
Is that precinct 4?
Okay, about to close it. Anybody else? Okay. All right, item number 5, consider and approve of zoning district changes for precinct, or for partial 28325 and partial 11827 as described above. I'd like to make a motion, we approve the zoning change.
I'll second.
All approved? Good. Motion passed. Number 6, consider and approve nominations and appointments to new board members to the Charter Review Commission.
Mayor, I have in your packet, the 3 board members, the nominations for 3 board members and the members that they're replacing. Nominations for James Henry, Joseph James, and Thomas Shelley, replacing Pam Wells, Christopher Price, and Lois Ball.
Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to accept nominations for changes to the charter committee.
A second? Okay, all approved? All
All 4.
is it all?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, item number 7, consider and approve an ordinance amending the code of ordinances as described below.
Mayor and council, this is pretty lengthy, so I have a summary that I printed off, and it's on an extra sheet beside each one of you. Is it that? I believe. So that's the summary, and I also attached a copy of let me get you one. I also attached a copy of the state statute. So the state statute updated their definitions, as this is a fast-changing field, apparently. Coin-operated machines and amusement redemption machines, and our ordinance was behind and did not reflect the same definitions as the state, and we were having some issues. We went through and clarified that by addressing these ordinance amendments, and so the 3 initial things that this addressed with coin-operated machines are amusement redemption machines, gaming computers, and gaming computer type situations are no longer excluded from the definition of coin-operated machines per state statute. This is a technical correction based on state law and the state comptroller's office guidelines that an amusement redemption machine, or ARM, is a type of coin-operated machine and may therefore be subject to the city's occupation tax on a coin-operated machine. And I attached the occupations code for that. Nonprofit organizations are exempt from the coin-operated machine occupation tax. They will now be required to provide a copy of the state comptroller's written notice verifying such exemption. So if you have one, the state already provides that exemption, a certification saying that you are an exempt entity that qualifies and your machine is exempt. And I'll talk a little bit about that. Based on state law and current city code, eligible nonprofits are exempt from the annual state and city coin-operated machine occupation tax, $60 per machine for state tax and $15 for city tax, $15. Whenever a nonprofit organization applies to the state comptroller's office for an exemption from this tax, the state comptroller provides the organization with a written notice confirming the eligibility. That way we don't we don't have a process to define and certify eligibility, nonprofit status, and things of that nature. Requiring a copy of this notice will ensure that the city is not making the decision whether or not they're exempt, but the state makes that decision. It's a decision that they already make, and we'll accept their decision. And it cross-references the zoning code relating to coin-operated machines into the ARM ordinance. Those have been added. The current zoning code contains limitations regarding placement of coin-operated machines within 300 feet of a church, school, or hospital, and the city code relating to arms contains several additional requirements relating only to arms and not coin-operated machines. Adding these cross-references to these provisions will ensure that these provisions are not overlooked when enforcing city ordinances. The second two things that this ordinance does is involving that's coin-operated machines. The bottom two are amusement redemption machines, or the game rooms establishments. It allows eligible nonprofit organizations to be exempt from the ARM establishment licensing and inspection fee, which is currently $1,000 per ARM, per amusement redemption machine per year. The exemption will apply only to nonprofit organizations, providing the city with a copy of the above referenced comptroller's notice. So if they have that notice that they're exempt, then they'll fall under our exemption as well if we approve the ordinance as it's written. Currently, the exemption, the nonprofit, for instance, the American Legion, our American Legion Hall has amusement redemption machines that we're waiting on a determination from council to decide how to proceed with theirs. That's a big source of revenue, and it's to their, it's not open to the public. You have to be a dues-paying member, and they can better manage themselves, and they would qualify for being exempt from those fees instead of having to pay. They already would be able to exempt themselves from the state fee tax, and this would further exempt them from the city's amusement redemption machine tax or fee of $1,000 per year per machine. And an ARM license for an organization other than a nonprofit organization will only be granted for an ARM that has a current state comptroller's tax permit. We don't really have the personnel or the ability to manage and oversee and go door to door to all the gas stations or different areas that have these machines, and that will require that the state also has the ability, and it aligns with cities' oversight. Currently, there's some machines that don't have the state's licensing or certification, and so we're not going in there trying to police or verify that are they registered with the state, call the state and report them to the state. We will only provide that licensing or registration if they have a state license and registration, which there's already a process, a long-standing process for that. But that's about the best I can bring this, as far as what this ordinance does. It's just a lot of obscurity between these machines going in and around town and us trying to know whether they're legally placed or not. And we found out that the state already has a process for oversight of that, and so that way we're not approving something that the state hasn't approved, because they're supposed to report and pay a tax and a fee for that.
Personally, I would have to do a little bit more research, because we did discuss this, but yeah, I would have to do a little more research for me to get a better understanding on how we need to move forward with this. So with that being said, I would just say that we postpone voting on this tonight, bring it back to our next meeting, put it on the next agenda. And
It's up to council.
It's just to go by what the state does?
Yeah.
Is that what you want? This is
now,
what the
I
state
want to
wants.
review it for myself so I can make sure I got a clear understanding. I hear John, but I need to
So you
know
don't
for
believe
myself.
him?
I didn't say I didn't believe it. I
So
said I hear John.
this has been put together based on recommendations from our code enforcement and our city attorney after full review to make sure that it was compliant with state law. But that's about the most I can give you, because like I say, that's my depth of understanding on this as well, is that it complies with state law and it passes our city attorney's review. So that's all I can give y'all. But I understand your concern, so that'll be up to
I would say that
council.
we just, unless you understand it, but I would prefer to review it so I can get a better understanding of the machines, how they work, what's going on with the coin-operated machine, what's the difference between the amusement redemption machine. I don't know.
That would be a valiant effort, and I would commend you on learning that, because it's a tough situation and it changes daily. Like, they'll come out with a new regulation where it used to be called an amusement redemption, but instead of paying out certain gifts or store prizes, they'll give you iTunes, and then you can go back the next day and cash it. It's a moving target. So that's about the best I can understand this entire situation.
So basically, these machines, they don't receive monies, they just receive gifts.
They're supposed to.
Supposed to.
Supposed to.
So that's what I'm at. So
Can we get something from
So
the
we,
attorney?
is this considered gambling?
We've always had the problem as to whether or not they're using them to gamble.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
Of course, that's a separate question from here, in the DA's office and the county's office, constantly trying to investigate them and see if they're paying out in money instead of gifts or something small. So you have to watch for that, but that's really a different issue.
That's why we
Change nothing other than like a nonprofit.
So
it
Like
changes the
Elks.
nonprofit.
Like the Elks, they don't have to pay our fee because it's a nonprofit. But everybody else still has to pay. All you gas stations has to pay. It's just the nonprofit.
And it aligns the ordinance with
With
the
the-
state definition. That way we can make sure that we're speaking the same definition.
So what kind of payment are they, what did you say they were making?
The $1,000 a machine.
So the arm licensing and inspection fee is $1,000 per machine. For coin operated, it's $60 per machine for the state tax and $15 for the city tax per machine. And arms have to have the coin operator machine certification, and then they have to have an ARM licensing and inspection fee where we have to go and verify that the numbers align with what they're permitted for and everything.
So I'll make a motion to bring the ordinance code language up to date with the state's representation of that.
A second.
So we have a motion and a second for this ordinance. So just to clarify that you're approving this ordinance amendment.
Yes.
Okay.
And I second. All approved? Against?
Abstain?
Okay. I get that's it for tonight. Thank y'all for coming. Get a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.